Thanks for coming on the SuperLife podcast. And, coming from a guy, in reading, getting through some of your book, it was just, I found myself more interested than I thought.
Oh, amazing.
In getting into it. And I think to set it up for me was like, God, the more strong, healthy women in the world is just better.
Yeah.
It's just better for everybody.
Thank you.
And, I fielded some questions from my team too, because they're all women and they're all just great. And I wasn't even trying to. They're just great people to have around. And so the whole menopause thing is just this, just speaking for me, clueless. I'm like, I know, you hear the term premenopause, menopause, people going into it, people not sure.
Yeah.
For you, why was it so necessary to write this book now?
Ooh, I love that we're starting with this question. So 10 years ago, I started to see a trend in my practice where all these women in their 40s were coming in and they no longer had one symptom. They had like 10. Right. And they had a common pack of symptoms, and it looked like this. I'm gaining weight for no reason. I can't sleep. All of a sudden, I hate my husband, and he hasn't done anything. Like, literally, they're like, his chewing, his snoring, everything is just putting me over the top. I've lost my ability to handle stress. I'm depressed. I'm anxious, like just pouring in like that. And these women had amazing lives. And they said that. They were like, I live in a really amazing house. I have the dream life, and I'm miserable.
So on paper, what the hell is going on?
Right. So I was like, okay, why does this happen to women in their 40s? And then I found a statistic that said the most common time for women to kill themselves is between the decade of 45 to 55.
Jesus.
Like, if you think about that, that's not a teenager who doesn't have a life that's created. That is a mom, a grandma, a community member. Like, what was causing women to kill themselves between 45 and 55? And that led me to another statistic that I saw, that 70% of divorces after 40 are initiated by women.
What?
Yeah. So I was like, what's going on with women during this time? And so the importance of this book was that I've been on this 10-year journey, like way before Fast Like a Girl, way before even Eat Like a Girl. Like, I've been trying to understand and answer what's the purpose of menopause. Because every other species on the planet, the female dies when her reproductive system stops. But not humans. Like, women live, if they're lucky, 42.5% of their life post-reproductively, and there is a
big-ass chunk.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
There's an evolutionary reason for that, and that's what I wanted to answer and bring forward.
Damn. And that's I think, in looking through your book, that was that moment going, oh my God, you're pointing to something that, on the one hand, and, we're pushed in this Western world to produce and kick ass and all of this stuff. But then all of a sudden, this tidal wave of shift is happening, and you're starting to put your finger on what that is. Yeah. So
true.
What was that discovery, maybe personally too, between shifting into that and how important that shift really is? Important to understand, but also to embody.
Yeah, it's another great question. So I took 4 people to answer the question of what's the purpose of menopause. I took an American anthropologist. Wow. Her name is Kristen Hawkes, and she's championed something called the grandmother hypothesis. I dove into Lisa Mosconi's work, the top female brain researcher in the world. I dove into a woman named Carol Gilligan, who discovered that society impacted the way a woman, through the lens in which a woman sees herself. And then I had to take a mystic, Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And she's been teaching women about the initiation into our elder years or our crone years. So I took all 4 of their teachings and I tried to find the through line. And here's what all 4 of these are saying. The brain is changing and the brain is changing for the positive. Your brain, a woman's brain, is going from more of a relational, people-pleasing brain that wants to make sure you're happy, everybody else is happy, and that we're getting that feedback, like, you look so pretty, you're so useful, you're so this, and everything's outsourced. Our happiness, our self-worth is outsourced, and that is what we've been taught by our culture, by a patriarchal culture. But what happens during menopause is that desire to please everybody goes away. And that was Lisa Mosconi's, right? This is why all of a sudden, a woman's like, you make your own goddamn dinner.
right.
All out of nowhere. And this is part of why the relationships are breaking apart, is she's like, no, I'm not doing that anymore.
Different person all of a sudden.
Yeah, different person. The evolutionary lens, what it showed is that actually back, and you'll love this, is right up your alley, back in the tribal hunter-gatherer days, is that when women stopped menstruating, what would happen is that they would move to a place of leadership in the culture. And they actually believe that the reason we're alive right here, right now as humans, is because of the post-menopausal woman. Because the strong men went out and they went hunting, and they came back with a big animal kill like 3% of the time, 1 day out of 30. So sitting back at the tribe was pregnant women, little children, fertile women, and so who's going to feed them? So the grandmother who no longer has a cycle, the hypothesis says she got fitness back, she got mental cognition back, she got leadership skills back, so that she could go and actually forage for food to keep the women and children alive while the men were off looking for an animal kill.
Wow. So she got stronger.
Yeah.
She got the ability to do what she did, but also had this wisdom, had all these other traits that were suppressed at a certain point. So that was deeply rooted.
That's in our
pun intended.
Yeah, that's in our evolutionary biology. That's that's our the way I look at it is that's our birthright.
Right.
But that doesn't happen in our culture. So many women are so scared of aging that they're like freezing their faces, and this is right up your alley too. They're toxifying themselves. Right. But we have to look at that not as criticism to those women. Really, at the core of that is they're scared to death to become irrelevant.
Right. Because culturally, there isn't a place for that currently.
No.
Yeah.
Like, you think about it in our culture, and you've traveled the world. Like, in our culture, you have a beautiful gray beard, and most people would look at you and be like a wise man. No, I mean...
Got them all fooled.
But by the sheer look, when we see a man aging and gray, we assume wisdom.
Sure.
We see a woman aging and gray, and we assume you're useless. Like, just that alone. But when I actually looked at the evolutionary explanation, I was like, wait a second. We have 1 billion women in menopause. What if we could actually get women to move into that leadership position? What would the world be like then?
Yeah.
So that was a big piece of like, how do we get women to look at menopause as a path to leadership? How do we get women to lead in the first place? But then I took Lisa Mosconi's work, who said that the brain actually women's brains are more relational. So we bring the right and left hemisphere to every single decision that we make. The right hemisphere is our emotional way we connect, and it's our creative center. The left hemisphere is logic. So as delightful as it sounds that we use both hemispheres, what happens is it means that we are constantly checking in with other people to make sure the relationship is okay. Like, when we're menstruating, we'll give you an answer, but we're also going to make sure, is that okay for you? And if you actually look at the way so many women, oh my gosh, you probably see this, so many women are like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. Like, because we have this relationship brain that is always thinking about other people. And that is what goes away at menopause. That relational brain drops, and women have more of what we call a lateralized, independent individual brain, where we can go into our creative and our emotional and stay there and not have to go into the logical. And we can go into the logical and stay there and not have to go into the emotional. A little more like a man brain, because your guy's brain is a lot more, you go to one hemisphere and then the other hemisphere. So I looked at that and I was like, wait, that's like a get out of jail free card for women.
And it's perfect. Like in a
Right?
sense, like, okay, I had some stuff with my mom this year in a good way, like seeing my birth and kind of going through all that and the recapitulation of so much that I never saw before of how badass my mom was.
That's beautiful.
Holding,
How old is she?
She's 83.
Oh, yeah.
Holding together, I mean, not to go off on this, but just to make this point, I was premature, so it was chaos. I almost died. My brother was born. He was 2. And my dad was a raging alcoholic, losing jobs. And they were and my mom held all of that together. Yeah. And to the point where she had, quote unquote, no needs. So in a certain sense, that arc of like, that is what the female is geared for, to go like, hey, man.
So well said.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was like blaringly obvious to a point where I had the great opportunity to have that conversation with my mom and acknowledge her for it, because I was just asking her questions like, holy shit, I almost died. I came home. Like, what was that like? And then I kept asking her, I'm like, holy shit.
Wow.
The chaos that you were able to do. But then from what you're describing, the shift in like, okay, I don't need to do that anymore.
Right. And here's the thing. This is so beautiful. And I hope she probably loved hearing you tell her that you saw what was going down.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it landed.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful story. Yeah. Here's what happens is when the brain changes, what we're discovering is a lot of women don't know how to focus on themselves.
Right.
Because the culture has said.
Is not at all.
So I brought into the book Carol Gilligan's work, and Carol Gilligan's work, she's a feminist psychologist who's she's in her 80s, and she's still a professor at NYU. And she wrote a book called In a Different Voice, and she studied girls in the 1980s, which was me. And basically she found that there was this time period between 9 and 13 where a girl's brain changed. So at 9, she would ask a boy and a girl a question, and they would give you clear answers, like, what do you want to eat? And the boy would say, I want this. The girl would say, I want this. At 11, same question, boy would say, I want this, and the girl would hesitate for a moment, but then she would tell you what she wanted. By the time those hormones came in and estrogen kicked in, now the boy still tells you what he wants, but the girl says, I don't know, what are you going to eat?
Right.
Like, right? Like, observe how many times. We have a strongly female staff, and I all the time say, no, they'll say, it's whatever you want to do. And I'm like, no, I want to know what you think should happen here. Right. But as women, we're not trained in that. So then all of a sudden our brain changes, and we're like, your mom's a great example. And for a whole life, we've never asked ourselves what we want. And that's why I think the women are killing themselves during this time. I think this is where the divorces happen, because all of a sudden women wake up and they're like, wait a second, I don't want to live with you anymore. Right. I don't want to do these things for you anymore. So if we could name that moment, we could save lives, we could save marriages if that's, I mean, I'm not trying to keep everybody married, but that is what needs to be discussed in the menopause, is that it is a woman like waking up and like going into a place of independence, but she's not equipped because the culture never asked her what she wanted. And that's what I'm trying to change with this book.
Well, it's so interesting because there's chemical and biological and time periods and all of that stuff. So like, when the girl is moving into the estrogen, and then all of a sudden that is changing the way she's viewing herself in the world. And then now with the menopause shift, if you don't have a basket to hold that, then you're just fighting against. You have a cascade of shift biologically and chemically. Yeah. But then you have no place and no one's talking about it. Yeah. Like, that's why this feels like, I mean, again, I'm not going through this, so it's not like my number one subject matter. Yeah. But hearing it the way you've presented it feels like you're putting your finger on something that feels like a duh.
Yeah, thank you.
It feels very, very necessary to understand this massive shift of half of the freaking population.
Right.
No, I mean, to say that everyone's in menopause, but understanding the cycle.
It's a huge amount of people, of women, And it's interesting because men are important in this conversation. And when Fast Like a Girl came out into the world, do you know that one of the things that shocked me the most is the number of men that reached out to us and thanked us for helping understand the hormonal cycle of their wives or their women in their lives. The number one thing I'm getting right now as I present the information in this book is women are saying, how do I talk to my husband? I don't know how to get him to understand what's happening to me, which is why we did this appendix to men, because I wanted to show like, hey, men, and I actually in the appendix speak directly to men. So it's not written to the woman, it's written to the man. But everybody, it's really important that we start to have a positive conversation around menopause, because it's almost like, and I go back, your mom's story has really touched me, because it's almost like we go back and your mom served the family in a beautiful way. And a lot of women are doing that and working at the same time. Yeah. And when you go into those post-reproductive years, it's a little bit like we need to sort of say thank you. Your service to the culture has been amazing, and now we need you to spend time on you. Right. And part of the reason we need you to spend time on you is because we need your wisdom and your leadership. I mean, Desmond Tutu, one of my favorite quotes from him was that if we want peace in the world, we need to let women lead. Right.
For sure.
Yeah. So, so put that next to this idea that you've got a 50-year-old who's like, I don't want to show you a wrinkle because you're going to think that I'm irrelevant. Right. And then you've got great leaders saying, let women lead. Right. How are we going to find the leaders if we don't train these women to stand firmly on their feet and speak their truth when they get through the menopausal experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's, and you see these, I mean, Jane Goodall pops in my head, right?
Did you ever meet her?
I never did. I'm bummed that I never did. But the leadership she brought was so powerful. Yeah. And instead of it being an anomaly, right? Of like, because who didn't love her?
Yeah, right.
And she stood in her space. Yep. And owned it. And think about her life. She kicked ass and did a lot of stuff. Great example. But now she's in this proverbial wisdom mode of her life. And everyone's like, yep. Yeah. I want to meet her. I want to hear what she has to say. Yep. And my God, if that can not be just this one or two people as a great example, can it be just the community, the family? Like, how do you see, like, just curious, I don't know if there's an answer, but as that woman who's going through right now, I want to get into like the physical side of things, the nutritional side of things, the support that they can have. But in terms of their family, and stepping into that role when the kids are like, they're off to college. I have so many friends that, their kids are gone and like and now the new identity is there. So how can that culture in the family unit, what's some of the biggest, aside from maybe what you just said in the
like support her? Like how does the family unit support her? Well, so there's twofold, and that's a great question. There's twofold to answers to that. One, she has to understand what's going on with her. Yeah. So that's why the book became so necessary, is like I feel like I wanted women to understand this isn't just a moment we bitch and moan and make funny posts on socials about how irritable we are. Like, and this isn't a moment to, this isn't, I know you and I will align on this one, but I'm getting a little exhausted with the hormone replacement therapy conversation, although it's beneficial.
Both sides,
Yeah, although it can be really beneficial, what the message is to women right now is that you are suffering because you didn't get the right doctor or the right hormone replacement therapy.
And you're broken.
And yes. Yeah. And we don't, so here's the thing that I'm so excited, I can't wait for women to grab this book, is what if the rage, the menopausal rage, is because you're finally done wrapping yourself up in a pretty bow just so everybody can say you're beautiful or you're amazing? What if the depression is because you built a life that no longer fits you and you don't want to be in it? What if the insomnia is your nervous system saying there's more, or maybe your nervous system saying it's time to rest? So the first thing is for the woman to start to look at what works and what doesn't work for me anymore. And in the family unit, I can tell you that then it becomes a moment to have a compassionate conversation. So the example that I give a lot is that during the pandemic, I was going into my deep perimenopausal years. And my daughter had gone off to college. My son and husband were at home. And I don't know if it was living with two men, but the house kept getting messier and messier. My son loves to cook. He actually is now a professional chef, which is great. But I would wake up in the morning and the kitchen would be a mess. The 38-year-old, the 42-year-old version of me would have been like, no problem. But the 50-year-old version was like, no.
Right.
And so instead of going crazy and blaming them, I sat them down. And this is what I said. Because of the hormonal changes going on in me, there is so much chaos going up in my brain. And so when I walk into a messy house, it just flares up that chaos. So can we come together and figure out how we can make the house more peaceful so that I can start to calm my brain?
Wow.
That was a really cool discussion to have with my husband and my son, and they understood, and we worked together as a team. That would be a positive way to do this, as opposed to, I'm living in a family unit I can't take anymore, now I'm going to kill myself, or I'm living in a marriage I can't handle anymore, it's his fault, I'm going to leave.
Right. Well, at the same time, you've come from a place where you've taken care of you held it all together. Right. And then I would imagine then going through this cascade, so many women are trying to there's something wrong with me, and then you're trying to continue to do the same things.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a prescription for disaster.
Right.
And so this cascade of emotion and chemical and biological shift.
Yeah.
He's swimming against the stream, trying to kind of you coming home and then, it's messy. Let me just do the same thing that I've always been doing. Now you're going against even more so what you're actually being and feeling.
That's right.
So the fact that you sat them down, that's a very proactive thing rather than just arguing and yelling and they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what's going on, then it's just it's chaos.
That's right.
Yeah.
You that was the perfect description. Is like you've got two people in a household that don't understand that one person is changing. Like literally her brain is rewiring for independence.
Yeah.
So like I always tell this story that two of my best friends, when they went through this process, their marriages started to crumble. And they asked their husbands to understand what was going on. And these guys were just way out of it. And they were like, no, I like the old version of you.
Right.
And so those marriages fell apart. But there needs to be, I feel like there needs to be permission for the woman to take care of herself. There needs to be an understanding that something new is happening. So maybe there needs to be a new version of these relationships. And again, I think that's the benefit of writing books like this is we get to open up that conversation. Right. And then now everybody can step into it and figure out how that works for them.
Yeah, and reinvent it. It's a massive reinvention period.
Exactly.
And it's supported in the research and your research and the understanding that this is an opportunity rather than something's wrong or broken.
That's right.
So going into it from a chemical, biological, what are some things that women, if they're kind of and I want to get back to is it happening earlier? Is there endocrine disruption? Is there? I want to get into that part of it too because I think we both know the answer to that. But
endocrine disruption is a whole 3-hour podcast. But let's go there.
But there is definitely aspects of that. But so what are some things now that women, if they're in their late 30s and their early 40s, and there's some kind of disturbance in the force, what are some things that they can start doing that are going to help them in some of these transitions? And maybe they're not even aware of it yet,
right?
But maybe there's some foundational things. And then we can get into when people are actually in menopause.
What's been interesting is that a lot of the podcasts I've gone on to promote this book are podcasts where the audience is the women are in their 30s. Because women in their 30s are asking the question that you just asked. What can I do to make that ride smoother?
Right.
Which is amazing. So here's the first thing that every single woman approaching 40, in their early 40s, should be looking at one blood work number that will change your whole experience. Wow. And that's hemoglobin A1C.
Oh, nice.
If your metabolic health is a mess, your hormones are going on a crazy ride. So if I could stop the menopause experience for so many women, I would say every 40-year-old needs to get a blood test, and we need to make sure that her A1C is close to 5. Like 5, 5.2, but not higher than 5.2.
And what is that actually showing for them?
Yeah, so two things. Your hemoglobin A1C shows how well your cells are able to take in glucose. So this is really interesting because it'll tie to the endocrine disruptors and all of that. When we eat, all of a sudden our blood sugar goes up, and our pancreas registers that increase in blood sugar, and it makes insulin. Insulin finds the glucose cells and it pushes it into the cell, and so that the glucose can get activated. When estrogen goes down, that system goes offline. So if you're already in a metabolic mess, what happens is as estrogen goes down, you become more insulin resistant without a change in exercise, without a change in diet.
That says so much.
Right?
Right? And think about all those women who are just beating themselves up in the gym.
Exactly.
Right?
So, which is interesting. So, oh my God, I love where your brain went with this. Yeah. There's something I've written in all my books called the Hormonal Hierarchy. And I wish every woman would tattoo it onto her if the ink wasn't so toxic. I know who I'm talking to. My toxic brain and your toxic brain can match. But at the bottom of the hierarchy are sex hormones, progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. What controls those 3 sex hormones more than anything is insulin. So PCOS is the most common hormonal problem for women, and that's an insulin resistance problem.
So already there, if they have PCOS, they're already there's a train wreck.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you've got insulin resistance, PCOS, you're metabolically overweight, those kind of things, let's clean that up, because if you clean up that and become insulin sensitive, then those sex hormones will balance. But here's the crazy thing, and this is the woman who goes and works out all the time, is that above insulin is cortisol. So if you keep driving cortisol into your system because you're
stress, yeah.
Or I'm not losing weight, so I better work out twice as hard, or I better diet twice as much, or what we saw in our is I better fast even more.
Right.
You're just increasing cortisol. And when you increase cortisol, now you make yourself more insulin resistant, and you throw these sex hormones off. Right. And then the last part of this is the very top of it that's so beautiful is oxytocin, which is why we have to stay connected as a human species. And we have to love these women going through this process, because if she has oxytocin, that calms cortisol down. If you calm cortisol, now you can be insulin sensitive, and now you can balance those sex hormones.
Wow, it's so interesting representation of the shift.
Right.
Because I go back to your story. So you have a story, you have a conversation with your family, they now understand you, and now there's a closeness rather than a separation.
That's right.
Right? So now a community, now you're understanding each other, now there's at least a better representation of oxytocin because you're heard and seen, and
right.
It's so perfect.
Right?
But yet if we are off culturally, and we could,
that's it.
And then we've created something that we're just trying to shove everything into.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense.
Right. We are off culturally. Yeah. I love that statement. And menopause, we didn't talk about it as little as 3-4 years ago.
Right.
And now everybody's talking about it. But the challenge is we went from a cultural hush to cultural chaos.
Right.
And one of the things I'm hoping to see is this evolution of this is a rite of passage that you're going through. Let us all gather around you and support you so that we can see who you become on the other side of it. We get to witness this transformation. One of the mystics, Clarissa Pinkola Estes, that I researched, she calls menopause the life-death life cycle. You had a life, and you get to die off the parts of that life that no longer fit to birth a new life. And we all win in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's the cool understanding.
Yeah.
But it's also it's the setup is if women are already challenged, that it's a reflection of society. It's a reflection of what it's been pushed at them or in them, whatever it is. And then probably that chaotic side of this conversation and the menopause thing is because it is not set up correctly.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's right.
And you have these insulin sensitivities, you have this PCOS, you have metabolic issues. Well, so now when you're seeing menopause, you're seeing it at a not only you not understanding it as an individual and as a family unit and as cultural.
Yep.
And then it's exacerbated because biologically, chemically, nutritionally.
That's right.
It's
which is why, like hemoglobin A1C, let's just fix that.
Yeah.
What happens to the female body as she goes through menopause, and this doesn't matter if you're like 70 or 80, you're still got this issue. Without estrogen, your body and brain doesn't know how to use glucose as well. So let's look at the messaging around dementia and Alzheimer's. They've like so many women are so scared of like dementia and Alzheimer's, and the HRT conversation right now is like, get on the patch or you're going to get dementia and Alzheimer's.
right.
But Alzheimer's is called diabetes type 3.
Right.
It's when the brain can't use all the glucose you gave it.
Right.
And 1 out of 3 women get Alzheimer's because without estrogen, your brain can't use glucose. So your ultra-processed diet, hopefully none of your listeners are listening to that, but that needs to get thrown away because that now is building a brain that can no longer function well. But we do have another fuel source other than glucose that can hit the brain in a perfect way, and that's a ketone. Which is why you'll see in the book, like I'm doubling down on for brain health fasting for women. I get asked all the time, should post-menopausal women or even perimenopausal women fast? And somehow out in the zeitgeist right now, there's this message that the answer is no.
Right.
But I can take the most brain foggy 48-year-old that's depressed, can't focus, just totally exhausted, and I can teach her to fast, and within days, her brain comes back online. Because, and I'm not talking like 3-day water fast, I'm talking like a intermittent fast 15-hour window.
Right.
Teach her how to clean her diet up, get her some ketones, and all of a sudden, boop, she's back.
Right. Yeah, because it's not, again, so many of the studies are men-based, number one. So then, therefore, if you look at the studies, then you're like, oh yeah, well, it's probably stressful for the women, but it's not understanding it. And also fasting can be perceived as so extreme.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it becomes this dude doing a 3-day water fast.
That's
and
right.
going, oh, I can't do that. Like,
right.
But it doesn't have to be that.
No,
way. Just giving little breaks.
Yeah.
And so generally speaking, these windows of fasting are generally good for, we don't want to prescribe anything for any individual necessarily, but the fasting window is huge for menopause.
Oh,
generally
it's
speaking.
huge.
Yeah.
And you get, so in the fasting world, this is the way we look at a 24-hour cycle, is that there's a fasting window and there's an eating window.
Right.
So if I stop eating at 6 o'clock at night and then I don't eat again till 10 or 11 the next morning, I've done 17 hours of fasting, which most people can do. So in that 17 hours, I've been giving my brain ketones. So I'm giving it the fuel source it needs. So ketones are neuroprotective. They bring all these neurotransmitters like GABA that calms us. They help prevent the neurons from being damaged by free radicals and toxins. So now for 16, 17 hours, this woman has gotten ketones. When she goes to open up her eating window, women are tired of counting calories, counting the scale, counting macros. So in this book, one of the things I did is I'm like, here are the foods you don't eat. Here are the foods you do eat. End of story.
Right.
So
don't worry
easy.
about it.
Yeah. Stop counting and just eat real food.
Right. Here's the window. Eat these
Yeah.
real foods, and your body knows what to do.
That's right.
And it's more sensitive then.
It's more sensitive.
Yeah.
But here's what women do, which is so sad, is menopausal belly weight. That is a topic that is like on my YouTube channel, that's all they want to hear. I'm like, I've done like so many videos on this for you all. That's all they want to hear because that's what really hits women. And one of the things that we know is when you put yourself in these fasting windows, and it doesn't even have to be every day, that you are forcing your body to go find the excess it stored years ago. So it will burn that menopausal belly weight. It doesn't know how to use glucose. So instead of putting glucose around your heart and lungs and around your liver that would cause inflammation, it put it around your belly. And it's not as efficient. I do think we become more stress sensitive as we move through this process. And so cortisol, your body doesn't know what to do with cortisol. Cortisol was the hormone that was meant to make you run from a tiger and move. But women are so stressed, especially during this whole period, they're not moving. Their motivation is down. They're gaining weight. They're starting to fall into apathy. And so all of that is what's cortisol, glucose, insulin, toxins, endocrine disruptors. That is what menopausal belly weight is. But what women do is that we look in the mirror and we think it's our fault. We go, how did I gain so much weight? I wasn't as clean. I didn't work out as much. If we don't understand ourselves, I'm never good at diets. My mom was always overweight. I guess I'm going to be overweight. Like we run all that messaging.
Yeah, the rumination.
Yeah.
Further supports the whole. I mean, the human flaw is we look at ourselves and. But this is knowledge is power.
That's right.
Certainly, when you're talking about something that no one's talking about, like it's important to understand your biology as it's shifting. Because I love there's so much support, both what's going on, but also this reinvention side of it, right?
Yeah.
This who am I now?
So cool.
Because that's the rite of passage.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Let's touch on society as it sits now. Talk about some of these things that are, girls are moving into puberty way too young, 9 years old, 10 years old.
So true.
And we can talk for days about the fatal conveniences of it and all of those things. But what for you in looking at this, and are women moving into premenopause and menopause earlier?
Yeah. So it's such a good question because I started 10 years ago to answer this question of what's the purpose of menopause. And at that time, we were saying to women, early 40s, you're going to start to go into this experience. And now what they're saying is at 35, you're going into this.
Jesus, 35.
Yeah. Now, just that alone has me suspicious because I do say, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do think there's a big pharma agenda going on here. So, and actually my OB, who's in her 70s, when I got on a call with her one day, she's like, well, are you seeing the big pharma agenda that's out there? And I was like, excuse me? She goes, oh yeah, the big pharma playbook. I see it all the time. And I go, okay, what is it? And she said, it's where they put fear into people that they're going to get X, Y, and Z problem. And then all of a sudden they put a celebrity, they put a author, a doctor author, they put somebody out there as the spokesperson that says, you don't have to worry about that fear. I have the solution.
We have an answer. Yeah.
So that's what's happening in menopause right now is that we went from nobody talking to it to everybody being scared of it to where we sit right here in this moment is you just have to get HRT and you'll be okay. But hormone replacement is an exogenous hormone. Anything you try to duplicate that the body makes, you try to duplicate that in a pill or a cream, it's not the same. It's not a match. And the North American Menopause Society, who is like the trusted society right now, says that women who have high blood pressure, women that are obese, women with metabolic syndrome and high hemoglobin A1C, you might want to talk to your doctor before you get on a history of cancer, before you get on this stuff. So yes, it can be amazing. It can be amazing. And we shouldn't just be outsourcing health, always outsourcing it and outsourcing it. When do we take responsibility for our own health?
Yeah, and you know, it's jumping 2,500 steps.
Yeah.
Right? That's the playbook. It's
Yeah.
like, don't worry about that. And the fine print is you're broken.
That's right.
And we have a solution for you. And if you don't understand what you're doing, or you don't make those lifestyle changes,
Yeah.
and then no one wants to do that. I don't know why.
I don't know why, because it's so rewarding.
Of course.
And it gives you confidence. I was talking to a friend this morning about Ozempic, and I was saying we have a really interesting moment in history where if a woman, we'll stay on the women, goes on Ozempic and loses weight, she might not tell you she's on Ozempic. She might feel a little shameful. She's happy she lost weight, but not every woman's boldly like, I lost weight because I was on Ozempic. There is some shame involved.
Sure.
If I teach that same woman a fasting lifestyle and she loses weight, she's got bravado.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, I did this thing I didn't even know I knew how I could do it. And my body lost weight for the first time. Both lost weight. One became empowered. The other is feeling shameful. Like that's the damage we do when we keep outsourcing and outsourcing and outsourcing our health to everyone else.
Yeah, because what's going to happen if you have weight loss, and if you're quote unquote feeling better, however you got there, people are going to ask you, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Right? And if you go, "I'm using GLP-1s and all this stuff," or I'm like, "Hey, I've learned that I'm in a period of my life, and I got these tests, and now I've made some lifestyle changes." It's a completely different thing. And again, I think it goes against the whole what you're talking about, the initiation into this wisdom archetype that is necessary and needed in society.
That's right.
But in one respect, if there is a freaking conspiracy, it is we don't want people strong and in their power, men or women.
Yeah, but especially our women.
Yeah.
We don't like our women angry as a culture, and we in general, I mean, just look at how many times we've tried to get a female president, and like we don't want women in power. I've been really watching Michelle Obama right now, and I always tell people this is not a political discussion. This is just a woman who's done some phenomenal things. And two things I'm watching her. She's in her early 60s. The first is she stopped doing all the dutiful things. So all of a sudden she wasn't going to all the traditional events an ex-first lady would go to with her husband. And do you know what? The press got worried because they were like, she's leaving him.
Right. They make up all these stories.
She's like, Barack and Michelle are getting divorced. And so Michelle went on a podcast and was like, can't I just be a grown-ass woman? That was literally her words. That is just making decisions for myself now. Does making decisions for myself have to be a sign I'm leaving my husband?
Right.
Second thing I saw recently is she keeps saying to people who are like, you should run for president. And I love, this is a post-menopausal brain. She's like, stop telling me that. You all are not ready for a female president. Like that's the certainty. But I think the larger picture here of what we're talking about is that women have been adapting themselves so much to meet the demands of this culture. And let's at least change that with this menopause conversation and be like, you're about to go into this place of leadership. You're about to think your own thoughts. You're about to be in a place where you can stand up for yourself better than ever before. Go do that. Like that should be the focus.
Yeah, I'm curious, like with you, like because you've been cranking books, have your own practice. You've been kicking ass for a long time.
Yeah.
So like as things are shifting for you, how has that been personally? How are you finding this transitional period?
It's a really good question. I share in the book that I had like a total I can't do life anymore moment. And, the preface of that was the LA fires and just being there that morning and literally looking out my window and seeing my whole hill on fire, seeing my neighbor's house catch on fire, not sure what to do but grab a few things, and driving down my canyon, I hit Sunset where it was just bumper-to-bumper traffic with embers everywhere and people going panicked. And that experience was like my nervous system just went no more. And I had body anxiety for months after that. And so what I did is actually remove myself and go live on my own.
Wow.
So
family and everything,
yeah,
you're just like,
yeah.
I'm out.
I'm like, I'm out. I also was writing this book, and I'm like, I need to go somewhere where I don't have to adapt to anybody anymore. So we actually took all my YouTube videos, all my podcasts, and we just started repurposing them. And I hunkered down in Santa Cruz for 4 months and wrote this book and healed. I went to yoga, acupuncture, chiro, I'd get my IVs. Like I was just trying. But what happened was my nervous system finally said, I can't do this anymore. We got to start over. And so I think for a lot of women that happens. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a loss of a job, but there's a moment somewhere in our late 40s, early 50s where we're like, no more, I can't do it. So one of the things I do now is like I finally said, I can work 2 days a week. Like, fine, put me in work and doing videos and doing all this 2 days a week, but I need the rest of it, the time for me.
Wow.
Now, I've never said that before. So we actually rebuilt our whole business around the fact that I could only produce 2 days a week.
Wow.
Which has been amazing.
Wow.
So, and then I started doing things like my therapist said to me, Mindy, what do you want to do? And I sat there and I was like, nobody's ever asked me that.
Wow.
Like nobody's asked me what I want to do. I haven't even asked myself that question.
Right.
So I started, and a lot of women resonate with that. I started every moment of the day, like, do I want to do that? Or am I doing that to make somebody else happy? What time do I want to eat dinner? I don't want to eat dinner at 8 o'clock at night. I want to eat dinner in the light because I know that's better for our hormonal system. Yeah. Like, I questioned everything I did. It was the most empowering thing I've ever done.
How's your family responded?
Yeah, right? It's a good question. My daughter was out of the house, so she kind of didn't witness this. My sweet 23-year-old son, I went to him when I was at the really breaking, and I think this is an important thing for a parent to do. I was like, I'm not doing well. And I'm going to just go ahead and take some time to myself, and I will get myself well, but I'm not doing great. And he's so cute. He says to me, you know what you need, Mom? I was like, what do I need? And he goes, you need a reset. Because he knows we use that in our brand a lot. Right. And I was like, yes, I do need a reset. So that was interesting. But it was my husband that took the most, I don't want to say convincing, but we had to have new discussions. And one of the discussions we have been having that I recommend everybody does is we identified that our marriage had 3 different times to it. And we call marriage 1.0 before we had kids. And then we call the time with kids marriage 2.0. And then we're now calling this marriage 3.0 without children. And so we literally will sit and I'll say, yeah, in marriage 3.0, I don't want to do that anymore.
To have identified very distinct, which is powerful because then it puts it in a context you can have a different type of conversation.
Yeah. So instead of him thinking I was leaving, it was I'm healing myself so I can come back to the marriage, but then we need to talk about how the marriage can support me. And so, and both of us, but I wasn't. Julie Gottman, I don't know if you know if you've ever studied her work, but she has a great statement that where women get, why divorce often happens is because women say yes to all the things they wanted to say no to. And so the resentment builds.
Right.
So I started using resentment as my litmus test. And so I will tell him, like, I want to say yes to you, but if I say yes to you, I'm going to feel resentful about that, whatever the topic is. So a new language, new marriage, new way of looking at that, and that has been so pivotal. And we're in the process of it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's none of these things are easy. Life isn't easy. But if you're not understanding certain things, and if you're not willing to have, call it a radically honest,
difficult,
and and you're saying both personally and professionally, and in the book, this time is to ask those important questions. What do I want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we kind of have a blame culture,
right.
don't we? Like especially right now, because our leaders are exhibiting that. And so it's
crazy.
It's really sad.
Algorithms and whatever. Yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah, let's talk about the algorithms. Really interesting. This is something we've spent some time. My YouTube channel has always been my passion project. I love bringing these videos forward. But now I got to think about the algorithm. So am I serving people or am I serving the algorithm? And we have examples of leaders that are just blaming everybody else. And how is that going to trickle down into the thought process of the society? We start blaming everybody. And I've spent so much time with women in this transition, and it's easier to blame somebody else.
So easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the human experience. It's just so, even, thinking about the fire, it's even in that stuff, it's easy to offload. Yeah. Because it's in the one respect culturally, there's an easy victim place.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere.
And there's always somebody to blame. There's
always somebody. And then actually nothing happens other than resentment, pain. You don't resolve anything. It builds up, like all of that stuff.
You know what's interesting? One of my favorite parts of writing this book is I took Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, and I took the steps, and I decided, could I map that to neuroscience?
Oh, wow.
If each one of the steps he lays out, what is happening to the brain? And one of the things that I found is one of the greatest ways to improve neuroplasticity is by meeting an obstacle, hanging in the obstacle, and finding a new path out. We call it resilience. And here we have a culture that women are worried that their memory's going. But if you could stay in that difficult moment of the transformation, you will find new paths. Like my husband and I, I'm giving you the highlight reel now. Right. But if you and I were having this conversation a year ago, it would have been really different.
Right. Yeah, because you're right. Yeah. You're right in the middle of it.
Right. But we stayed in the difficulty and we found a new solution, and then that ends up creating these new neurons in our brain.
Yeah.
And I think we are a comfort culture, and all we want to do is stay comfortable. But what's so cool about this rewiring that's happening to women's brains is that if you hang in there, you have all the people-pleasing neurons are going away. That was what Lisa taught us. Like all those neurons that kept you addicted to everybody else's, likes and dislikes of you, those all go away. And you get these new neurons that are forming. I call them baby neurons. They're like sitting up in your head waiting to be trained on how to think. And when we decide we're going to change, we're going to drop behaviors, we're going to become a new person, resilience is required. And you're going to find that you grow new neurons in a much quicker way, which helps you with memory and helps you prevent dementia and Alzheimer's.
It's a physical thing, too. Yeah. Like not always going around obstacles.
Right.
Especially as it relates to relationships.
That's right.
Right? It's, those situations where there's people working for you or friends, you're like, God, I got to have this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And it's your brain wants to come up with a million reasons to not do it or go around it, but there's no way other than the way through it.
And if you could take the knowledge of neuroplasticity in that moment and say, I don't want to do this. It's so uncomfortable, but you know what it's going to do is grow me new neurons. Yeah. Because now if I do this, I have a remembrance of a difficult moment. And when the next difficult moment comes up, I'll have the neurons that will remind me I got through it. But if we bypass that, then the brain never knows that it can do hard things.
Right.
And it'll always revert back to the comfort level that so many people are addicted to.
Yeah, and it's never easy, But you have that history
Yeah.
of going, hey, it's not that bad.
Right.
So I'm just going to take a deep breath and sit and move into that.
Exactly.
And it's powerful. And it's, then it's, you don't look for it, but in the certain respect, it's beneficial and you feel it.
So in that context, think about it through the messaging for women right now with menopause, is that the messaging is you are suffering because we forgot to tell you you needed hormone replacement therapy. Again, it works really well for a lot of people, but don't let your desire to stop suffering make it that you miss the opportunity to reinvent yourself. Don't fall asleep to that moment, because that's this brain rewiring that's happening is fertile ground for the best version of you to come shining through. And if you get too comfortable, you might not be so inclined to go to that next best version of you.
Who do you see yourself being now in this other? What are some of the things that are popping up that are you're starting to see this phoenix rising for you?
It's a really good question. So, well, I can tell it through the example of what I call taking back my little girl. So, Age Like a Girl was really a brand name, but it also turned out to be a perfect name for this book. And I grew up in Malibu, and I grew up in, do you know Sunset Mesa?
Yeah.
Beautiful neighborhood in the 70s where packed with kids. We were riding skateboards and it was like a big community of people that the kids would play on the street. And God, there was so much I learned there. And I was a tomboy, and I used to play, like when I was 9 years old, I would play baseball with like 14-year-old boys, which is a big difference when you're in that age.
Big, yeah.
And I'll never forget one day a friend of mine who was a father of a family I was close to said, "Hey, Mindy, I'm going to go out surfing. Do you want me to teach you how to surf?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to learn how to surf." So we went out to Topanga. We go out there to surf. And sitting in the lineup is a boy from my class. And the boy looks at me and he goes, "Mindy, what are you doing out here? Girls don't surf."
Wow.
And that was the beginning of where I started to betray myself. And I was like, I came out of the water. I was like, no, girls don't surf.
Wow.
And then I started to look at other athletic activities. I'm like, girls don't do that. Girls don't do this. Because it's 1970s.
Wow, right.
And so I started to shy away from this whole playful, sort of confident little girl that I was. And I remember going to my mom, who was like a 50s beauty queen. And I remember saying to her, what do I need to wear? Who do I need to be more liked by boys?
Wow.
So I just got a hold of that in the last couple of years.
Jeez.
So after the fires kicked me out at the Palisades, I went to Santa Cruz, and a friend of mine one day said to me, she's 52, she goes, "You want to come surfing with me?" And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And so I started surfing.
Wow.
I've been surfing every day since July.
Amazing.
And I go out with my friend, and we giggle like two little girls out there and just surf. For 2 hours every day, I'm surfing. I'm putting that above work. And I'm like, finally, I'm going back to play. That's what this looks like to me. I turned 56 in October, and the house we moved into has a very steep driveway. And I turned to my husband when I looked at the driveway, and I was like, on my 56th birthday, I'm going to get a big wheel, and I'm going to go down this driveway. Right? You know it.
Of course.
I like spin out. And it was so funny because he was like, "Honey, you're not going to fit on a big wheel. You're going to need a helmet." And I was like, "Stop."
Right.
I went to Amazon. I ordered a big wheel. On my 56th birthday, I literally went as fast. He videoed it. Went as fast as I could. I spun out just like I did when I was a kid. And I was so happy. So where I sit now is taking back the parts of me that the culture said was not acceptable.
Wow. That's
Isn't that fun?
That is awesome. And that surfing thing, when we can take that moment and start collapsing ourselves, right? And to the recapitulation of reclaiming all of that is.
You know, I had a moment yesterday that I'll share. Do you surf?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was out in Malibu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was at Gabby and Laird's house, and
It was an adventure.
yeah, that was a total. And getting up there is an adventure. The whole thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to run into Laird, and I was telling Gabby about what I've learned about the neurochemical upside of surfing, and we get out of the podcast, and she says, "Hey, Laird, you got to hear what Mindy learned about surfing." I'm like,
And Laird's probably like, okay, well, tell me what you've learned about surfing.
exactly. I'm like, no, your husband's like
He's a legend.
He is a legend, and I'm now going to teach him the neurochemical upside of surfing. He was so lovely. And I tell him about how I had figured out, the dopamine and all the neurochemicals you get from surfing. And I said to him, I suck at it. And here's what he said to me. Don't tell yourself that. You don't suck at it. You can always be better at something. And then he went on to tell me what surfers think that they're riding a board and that they're experts of riding a board, but really surfers are wave readers. And I left and I thought, well, now there's a full circle moment in my hometown where in the 7th grade, a boy told me girls don't surf. The 56-year-old version of me comes back and gets surfing tips from the legend of surfing himself. It was like, right? I was like, now there's a full circle moment.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been full circle if you didn't have that experience and then reclaim that.
That's right. But so many, I think this could apply to men.
Yeah.
So many of us lose the play. We become dutiful. Women are so good at being dutiful, like your mom. And what I love about this brain change that's happening in menopause is it actually is rewiring you to take yourself back.
Totally.
And that is so cool.
God, that's great. Oh, it's so good. And I don't even realize I bought my mom a house next to my brother 10 years ago. And she just loves just being out.
Yeah.
And out in the country.
So
and
cool.
It's a beautiful thing. And God, if more women can get the benefit of what you put together here. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of great information, but what you've applied to yourself of having joy and including your family in to this wisdom, fun-loving person again,
Thank you.
That's the best.
Yeah. It feels, when you sit in your own self authentically, there is no better feeling than that.
Amen.
It's just I'm so proud of myself. Yeah.
It's just like a relief.
And you don't have to pretend to be anybody anymore. It's freedom.
And that's a message anyone at any time can take in.
Agreed.
Thank you so much for the wisdom that you're put into this book and also the wisdom that you're being
Thank you,
for other
Darin.
women.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
I appreciate that. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you.